Today we have with us Dr. Ajay Chrangoo, who is the chairman of Panun Kashmir. Panun Kashmir, a frontal organization of Kashmiri Pandits, which has been spearheading the movement of separate homeland under the Constitution of India since last 30 years. Ajay Chrangoo ji, welcome to Epilogue. Dr. Chrangoo, yesterday Government of India acknowledged that genocide has taken place, has happened in Kashmir Valley. What is your take on this? I mean, how do you view this development as?
See, it's after a long time they have once again accepted a reality which should have become a part of their entire thinking while developing a policy for Jammu and Kashmir. In 90s, International Commission of Jurists had visited India, and at that time, Government of India had made a presentation to International Commission of Jurists and accepted that whatever had happened to the Hindus of Kashmir tantamounted to a demographic assault and a religious cleansing. And now, at the Government of India level, at the 16th level, they have accepted that a genocide has taken place. It's a long time of perhaps accepting one of the worst tragedies which has befallen a segment of the people of India. I'll say that it's a good development because in case the Government of India internalizes this reality, then many changes will take place in the policy of Government of India, which will ultimately address the ground situation in a way which has not been addressed so far. So it's a good development. There has been some coherence in the policies of Government of India since BJP withdrew its support to the PDP government. And for us, it's a pleasant development in the sense that we see the Government of India is moving in a direction which it should have moved long back. But having said that, I would like to say that 30 years not recognizing a tragedy which happened because crimes against the humanity were committed in J&K. And so much could have been salvaged. So much human tragedy could have been perhaps prevented. If Government of India has now realized it at some level, then what we expect is that the policy structure which will evolve now will move in a direction which is logical and which is commensurate with the understanding that a genocide has taken place. We would have welcomed that this thing should have been accepted at the highest level. In fact, we would still urge that the Prime Minister of India should make it very clear that they are dealing with a situation in Jammu and Kashmir where a genocide has taken place. And the entire community has been destroyed, its habitat has been destroyed. And it is critical, ultimately, so far as correcting the Kashmir policy, Jammu and Kashmir policy is concerned.
I've been observing this struggle of Panun Kashmir for last so many decades now. Well, you have been at the spearheading this movement and trying to tell Government of India the real face of Kashmir and the real face of what is actually happening on ground there. You at times have compared the situation in Kashmir with Syria as well. So, do you think that this, with this declaration banning JKLF and acknowledging that it is a genocide, there is a paradigm shift in the policy of Government of India with regards to understanding and dealing with the terrorism and separatist movement in Kashmir?
It appears, as I told you, that for some time we are seeing Government of India is moving in a direction which is a different direction, which is not a direction which Government of India was pursuing for the last so many decades. See, when Government of India said that talks and terror will not go together, it was again a paradigm change because till that time, Government of India had internalized a policy structure which said there will be uninterrupted and uninterruptible dialogue with the separatists.
Yes.
So in a way, when Government of India very resolutely linked this formulation that terror and talks cannot go together, it was moving in a different direction. I personally think that even the Balakote strike, it is a paradigm change. And now Government of India has accepted that a genocide has happened. First of all, it should happen at the very highest level. Government of India should accept it at the very highest level. It should not be left to a lower level of government to claim these things, because I think Prime Minister of India should himself say that this has happened. Not for the sake of Kashmiri Hindus, but to let the world know that the moment which seeks to be recognized as a freedom moment is basically a moment which seeks to destroy the freedom of the people. And this moment got unleashed with the destruction of the freedom of the minority, Hindu minority of Kashmir Valley. It's very critical so that we can place the entire public effervescence, the mass support to this to the separatist fundamentalist movement in Kashmir in proper perspective. There's a whole lot of intellectuals, academicians, political think tanks who try to ultimately relate the public support to this moment, to the legitimacy of this moment. There is a thinking which is a perverted thinking in this country, which tries to say that if people supported some moment, that means that moment is legitimate. Actually, it is wrong. It's fundamentally wrong premise. See, there were Germans who supported Hitler. There were Italians who supported Mussolini. But the moment essentially was regressive. It was fascist. In Kashmir, we are having a religious fascist moment. There is an upsurge because there was no alternative narrative which could have countered it. In fact, Government of India had a policy also not to create any alternative narrative, not to reach out to the people and tell them that there is fundamentally wrong in the thinking which underlines the separatist cause in the valley. So now, since Government of India has changed its course and it has recognized it, it's very important that the world also should know that the public effervescence, the public support to the separatists, it is basically a support which is driven by a fascist epidemic in the valley. And saying this thing is very critical because globally we are seeing that fundamentalist forces are using democratic systems to destroy them from within.
Hope that changes now. And Dr. Chrangoo, actually, this is the second second ministry which has acknowledged that whatever is happening in Kashmir is not right. First, it was Foreign Affairs Ministry which used the words like jihadists and terror, Islamic terror. Now it is the Home Ministry which has acknowledged genocide. So this has come as a shot in the arm of especially Panun Kashmir organization, which has been spearheading this whole movement and trying to tell the whole world what actually is happening in the government. We see this as a vindication of your efforts. Now, since the Home Ministry, Home Secretary has Rajiv Gauba has himself acknowledged in a press conference yesterday that yes, it was a genocide. What do you propose and what do you see ahead in terms of a roadmap for Kashmiri Pandits in recognition has been done? Now, what about the reversal of genocide? What Government of India should actually do to consider the reversal of genocides?
See, there are many things which follow from this. The first thing which Government of India perhaps should realize, the first thing which they should do is they should stop using the word migrant. Because they have been describing genocide as a migration. It is a worse form of denial of genocide. In fact, I have been saying that the biggest victory for the Islamic fundamentalist establishment spearheaded by Pakistan, the biggest subversive victory for this establishment has been making Government of India recognize genocide as a migration. The first thing first, they should stop recognizing it as migration. Then the second thing which Government of India should start immediately doing is they should stop treating the internal displacement of Kashmiri Hindus as if it is a migration which has taken place because of some natural disaster, as if people are flood victim people, or the people who have come out, they are the people who are the fire sufferers or earthquake victims. Government of India should immediately stop that, and they should address it in its proper perspective. That's very critical, because till now, Government of India was basically treating the issue of return as an issue of an economic package. Now, when they recognize it's a genocide taking place, they have to see it in a broader perspective. So these are two small steps they should immediately take. And the third thing is, they should address now the issue of creating a policy for a permanent reversal of genocide. And permanent reversal of genocide should be based on the principle of non-refoulement. And what is that non-refoulement? That you cannot push back the people to a situation from where they have been pushed out when the forces who pushed them out are still existing there. In fact, have multiplied. In fact, have become more powerful. You cannot push people back to a position of servitude to the perpetrators of their religious cleansing and genocide. Till now, Government of India policy was like that. And I think they will move in this direction. And the last but not the least, which I will say, Government of India is a signatory to the Covenants of Prevention and Punishment against Genocide. They should invoke these covenants, and they should, from that perspective, devise means of not only punishing the structures, the elements which were responsible for it, and in that direction, the first welcome sign is that the Government of India has linked JKLF as one of the perpetrators of genocide. Till this time, Government of India was trying to project JKLF as a structure which was closer to Indian interests than the Pakistani interests. And they were trying to give it a legitimacy as if it was a secular organization. It was pursuing secular goals. Government of India has taken a small step in this direction, and that they are now trying to identify the people and bring them to justice. So, bringing people to justice on one side, and those who have perpetrated the crimes, those who have collaborated with the crimes, even exposing the elements who have been the bystanders, deliberate bystanders in this crime, and then at the same time bringing the people who have done this to justice. These are the two things which the Government of India eventually and ultimately has to evolve and bring forward.
Thank you, Professor. Sir, there has been a general sentiment that as an interim mechanism, as a middle term mechanism, community, well, we are not, this community is not a migrant. So as an interim mechanism, the United Nations guiding principles on internal displacement, which are specifically meant for people who are exiled or who are living in exodus, like the Kashmiri Hindu community. So what is your opinion about a grant of internally displaced person status to Kashmiri Pandits?
See, there has been a lot of debate on internally displaced persons. There is as yet not a formal covenant, a formal convention adopted by the United Nations. There have been some guidelines, and one of the most important thing of these guidelines has been that they guidelines accept that the problems of internally displaced persons in fact are more, in fact are worse than the international refugees, because there is a general international consensus on what should be done to the international refugees. And in the case of internally displaced persons, since they have not crossed the boundaries of their nation, they are still living in their own country. So in terms of the amelioration of their plight, the sovereignty of the nation comes in between. So it becomes difficult for the international community to really come forward and offer them the help which normally has been offered to the international refugees. So I think the best thing now should be, since Government of India has accepted that there is a genocide, and they should correct the nomenclature, but it should not remain confined to the correction of the nomenclature. it should evolve policies in two sets. A, what should be done in exile?
Yes.
And B, what should be done that their habitat is restored? In that context, I'll tell you there is a lot of work which has been done. In fact, Red Cross has done, other NGOs who have been dealing with international refugee problems, problems of internal displacement, forced internal displacement, and genocides, religious cleansings. They say that handling such problems is like it's a tripod. The one leg of that tripod is the security. In case you think of rehabilitating the people back into their habitat, then the policy structure is like a tripod. One leg is the security, another leg is what you call as the existence and the possibility of the freedoms which are available to them. In that,
To the people living in it.
to the people whom you take back.
Yes.
And third is development, whether they can develop there,
Sustain themselves.
they can sustain themselves. And then they say that if one of the legs of the tripod is short, the whole chair, the whole will collapse. So till now, Government of India has treated the policy as if it's the policy of migrants who have come out because of some natural disaster, and they have treated it primarily and merely as an economic package problem. This thing should change. It is insulting. It has caused a lot of trouble. It has undermined India's prestige, and it has legitimized separatism and fundamentalism. See, the biggest help to the fundamentalists was trying to give it a secular legitimacy, trying to give it a legitimacy as if it was fighting for the very egalitarian freedoms which a mankind should have. In Kashmir, nothing of this sort happens. I have many times said that the politics of special status, greater autonomy, self-rule, independence, going to Pakistan, and caliphate, they are the stages of the same religious fascist movement.
Indeed, enlightening, sir. Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front led by Yasin Malik has been banned. So, what do you think are the repercussions or the advantage going to be for India as well as for the situation in Kashmir on ground?
See, three things have happened. They have banned Jamaat. They have not as yet moved against Ahl Hadith. Ahl Hadith is the mother organization of Lashkar-e-Toiba. And Lashkar-e-Toiba is a pan-Islamist organization which for the time being has decided that it will not do any activity which will impinge upon the interests of the state of Pakistan. The difference between Lashkar-e-Toiba and other pan-Islamist regimes operating in Kashmir is that the other regimes say that they have a bigger international agenda. Lashkar-e-Toiba also said that it is a bigger international agenda, but it thinks that Pakistani state is a vehicle for that. So they will not do anything which intersects or impinges upon the strategies or the policies of Pakistan vis-a-vis J&K state. JKLF again was an organization which would claim that it is basically a national organization, but at the same time which will try to promote Muslim interests. It was basically a national conference movement. This JKLF movement was an oxymoron. It was spearheading a Muslim movement and at the same time claiming itself to be a national movement.
In the grab of freedom.
So you can be an Islamist, then you are not a nationalist. You are not a nationalist when you push out the Hindus out of your state and then say that you represent Kashmiri nationalists.
This is an important statement. Sir, you said if you can be an Islamist, then you cannot be a nationalist. How? What should we think about it? I mean, what should we draw from this?
Because Islamists do not recognize national boundaries. For them, they recognize a supra-state. They recognized Ummah. So caliphate is a supra-state. It's not a national state. And in fact, Islamists think that thinking in terms of nationalities is a negation of Islam. They don't recognize ethnicities. They don't recognize identities which have evolved in history. They recognize an identity which has been created as per them through the declaration of the Prophet, or through the declaration of their religious book. So this thing that which the Islamists propagate have been propagated at various levels by various regimes operating in J&K state. JKLF from the beginning claimed itself to be a Muslim movement, and at the same time claimed that it's a Muslim national movement. Now, claiming itself to be representing a Muslim national movement is a contradiction in terms. Nobody contested them so far. So what I am trying to say is that various streaks of these politics in the valley, they might be having some power competition with each other, but they are basically complementary to each other. Banning of JKLF is a step, because it's a step in the right direction, because keeping JKLF, distinguishing JKLF from other streaks of Muslim separatist ideological formations in the valley was virtually giving it a secular legitimacy when it was actually pursuing a Muslim communal genocidal agenda. But what is the basis of JKLF? The basis of JKLF is the same, which is the basis of the ideology of National Conference. So the root cause, the pedestal on which this whole thing is standing is what National Conference advocates. National Conference advocates that Jammu and Kashmir is a separate domain because it is a Muslim majority domain. Then it does not claim only this thing. They say that Muslim precedence is preserving Muslim precedence in all spheres of activity in J&K state, in the government, in the society. It is a very legitimate goal, and J&K state has to fulfill this goal. So National Conference basically was proclaiming a Muslim state on the territory of India. And this Muslim state on the territory of India has to be dismantled. If India has to remain and survive as a secular polity, if it has to survive as a secular nation. So the roots of JKLF thinking, they lie in the very roots of National Conference thinking. And there is a global challenge this time. And this challenge is most severe and intense in India. Globally, the Islamic separatist, Islamic fundamentalist movements have started developing a process by which they recognize democratic setups not as a danger to them. They think that they can capture the democratic space, and after capturing the democratic space, they will destroy it from within for their cause. In India, you see, elsewhere, this type of a thinking was generated first by the Muslim Brotherhood, and then it was seen globally. In Europe, Islamists are operating like that. In America, Islamists are operating like that. In Turkey, Islamists have operated like that. In Algeria, Islamists have operated like that. Entering into the democratic domain, capturing it, and then destroying it, then Islamizing it. So in a way, for last 3-4 decades, Islamists have gradually known that democratic systems and the democratic freedoms can be used for growth of Islamism. For growth of Islamism, and they can be used to insulate the Islamist overground structures from any state action.
Like what has been happening in Kashmir.
But in this moment of using democratic domains, creating them into subversive domains, or in a way infecting the democratic domain like termites and destroying them within, this process has been happening globally, but the pioneer of this process has been National Conference. Even before Muslim Brotherhood could conceive of doing this thing, National Conference conceived of this thing. The day the ceasefire took place between India and Pakistan on 1st January 1949, and Nehru started a dialogue with National Conference that let us now think about the constitution of J&K state. Sheikh Abdullah told him that yes, it's a Muslim majority state, and Pakistan is giving certain conditions. They are offering a proposal where they would not even like to have the 3 subjects which were the subjects of vexation. If the foreign affairs and defense is given to them, they will be happy. And then Sheikh Abdullah tells Nehru that Government of India has to devise a package which will offset the appeal of Pakistan. So that day, Sheikh Abdullah gave up, abandoned the Naya Kashmir plan, abandoned secularism, and started claiming privileges, political privileges and constitutional privileges based on the Muslim majority character. And that day, the creation of a Pakistan on the territory of India started. And we are face to face with a situation where we have to fight a Pakistan outside the territory of India and a Pakistan on the territory of India, and Pakistan inside and Pakistan outside. Jihad outside and jihad inside. They are one unit. They are not two units. I hope that the Government of India recognizes that this religious, fundamentalist, fascist movement starts from where national conference started its politics. And unless this is delegitimized, unless this is contested, and the time has come, Government of India has not only to what JKLF did. How JKLF, Jamaat-E-Islami and JKLF received patronage and help from the mainstream democratic formations. That is the area which has to be looked into.
Sir, Shah Faisal, a doctor turned politician, doctor turned bureaucrat turned politician, has recently launched his political party, Jammu Kashmir People's Movement. And while you were saying about the initial separatist initial separatist movement launched by Sheikh Abdullah through a national conference, he too raised certain issues which were raised by Sheikh Abdullah since 1931, that the people of Kashmir are subjugated for last 150 years, and he precisely used the term Amritsar Treaty. So what is your take on this? Because he is something which people are looking forward to, and we need to assess. I mean, what do you think about his joining the politics and his ultimate goal? What in your opinion?
I don't know whether we should have a very separate comment on him. He might be a bright, educated person and who must be having certain views about what is happening in the Kashmir. See, I see a bigger development living beside Faisal. And this bigger development, political development in Kashmir happened with the creation of PDP. At that time, there was a whole lot of political thinkers and strategic thinkers who thought that it's a very welcome development. They said introducing an alternative political pole into the scene of Kashmir will deepen the democracy, and ultimately it will be beneficial to India. This policy failed squarely because the new political pole which was created, which was supported and financed from outside also, this pole introduced competitive secessionism and competitive communalism into the system. So what happened, that it didn't widen the democratic space, it didn't widen the secular space. In fact, it widened the separatist space. Two political parties competing for the same agenda became more and more virulently separatist and fundamentalist because they were competing now. What is happening in recent times in Kashmir, the multiple such poles are being introduced. They are not ideologically different, but they try to claim that they are trying to use the democratic system and give it a new shape. So it serves the interests of Pakistan more than anybody else. It serves the interests of the fundamentalist regimes, what you call as pan-Islamist movement, which is now a Takfiri movement in Valley, more than anybody else. Because Government of India for a long time thought that democracy will be used as a not only as a governance model, as a real governance model, but there were a whole plethora of intellectuals who thought that democracy can be antidote to separatism. It can be antidote to fundamentalism. Even if that democracy is being perpetuated in the name of separatism, in the name of communalism. Now what is happening, that multiple poles might might break the power cake, the political power cake, into multiple pieces. But if the actors who are doing it are basically having the same ideological the same ideological proposition, then it is going to create a more vicious situation. And Pakistan will welcome actors, entities who do not have much power, who cannot upset their game plan. See, a very strange thing has happened. National Conference thought that they will use Jamaat and Ahl Hadith as an antidote to get more privilege and more power from Government of India. And what has happened over the years, the National Conference did it, but eventually National Conference has become an appendage of the fundamentalist establishment. Same is true of PDP. You see, both the parties are trying to, at the time of elections, trying to see that what support they get from the Pakistani establishment and the fundamentalist establishment. And they devise their policies in that ultimately at the time of elections, the fundamentalist establishment should endorse them as the main actor or as the main force. So previously the fundamentalist establishment had to share its patronage between two actors and decide who can be the number one actor and who can be the number two actor. Now with multiple actors coming into, the fundamentalist establishment or the separatist establishment will have to share it amongst many. And its implication is that they will have to give very little. So, emergence of Shah Faisal is not any significant development other than emerging of the same, one more actor who is seeking to take some share from the same cake and which has been baked on the same ideological principles. I don't think a person like, an educated person like him realizes that what has happened to the Kashmiri Muslim society. He does not realize what is the implication if the folk songs for the marriage they are now the jihadi songs. He does not realize a small child of 3 or 4 years raising the slogan of Musa, Musa, Zakir Musa in the home. He does not realize what type of things have happened to the Muslim society in the Kashmir Valley, where children are being taught how to handle pistols in their bedrooms and drawing rooms. This is a challenge. He does not talk about what type of drug menace has infested Kashmir Valley. There are some reports where they say that 25% of the drug addicts in the valley are women. Nobody talks about what has happened to the forests of Kashmir, what has happened to the springs of Kashmir, how even the floor beds of springs have been captured to build the real estate, how flood channels have been encroached to build the houses. This type of a thing, this normally an educated person who is exposed to the both currents, the current of freedom and current of Muslim politics, should have realized that there is a huge challenge. And I am sure the Government of India has so far thought that halfway separatism will bring nationalism to jihadist. Halfway separatism brought jihad and caliphate politics. And if there are Kashmiri youth, if there are Kashmiri new leadership who do not realize what has happened to Kashmir, who do not realize that they are not following a freedom movement, they are following an unfreedom movement. And if they don't raise their voice, who will raise their voice? Whatever price Kashmiri Pandits had to pay, they paid at the hands of those people who wanted to destroy the freedom. Now whatever is happening there is destroying the freedom of the society which supported this unfreedom movement. Shah Faisal was educated enough to understand it. But unfortunate part, the bad part, the sad part is that he has chosen to be blind to it. Such persons, in the emerging person in the Kashmir, such persons educated, who benefited from the education which the state of India offered them, who were brought up in a liberal atmosphere of India, that India offers, they are still reluctant to understand the type of dangers they are face to face with. For us, telling them anything is, I don't think that we have any sermons for them. We know very well that in the valley we are face to face with the fascist anti-freedom movement. And freedom will be restored when the discourse will become plural. Discourse will become based on right to equality, coexistence. The discourse presently is entirely reverse than what I am telling you.
Well, mesmerizing again, Dr. Chrangoo, so nice of you. You're giving such an insight of the whole situation that is evolving in Kashmir that we cannot express our words. The thankfulness, cannot be expressed through words. Now, a very important and pioneer thing that is happening in the state of Jammu and Kashmir or rest of India is the parliamentary elections. Elections are slated for parliament in the state of Jammu and Kashmir in the month of April and May. And the Kashmiri Pandits who were till recently casting their votes in Jammu constituencies are being told to cast their votes from the Kashmir constituencies. There seems to be a sort of obsession of a very particular political party that Kashmiri Pandits should get their votes transferred to Kashmir. And this is something which goes against, we believe, the ordinarily resident part of the whole electoral rules and the acts. So what is your take on this?
See, the first thing is the constitutional. If I am an eligible, properly enrolled voter in Jammu, nobody can shift my vote to Kashmir. In fact, for any voter in India, it is his right from where he will vote. He has to fulfill the criteria, which are the criteria devised by the Election Commission of India. But it's my own freedom, it's my own right. Shifting the votes without asking the voters is a gross violation. It's an unconstitutional act. So anybody and everybody who thinks that his vote has been shifted without his or her consent, then he has to tell the people, he has to tell us, he has to tell everybody else that we can contest it properly.
There is a larger angle, sir. Actually, ordinarily residents is the very word which comes up in the legislation which is connected, the acts and the rules which are connected with the election process. Past 30 years, Kashmiri Pandits have been living in Jammu or various parts of India. Now, even if a Kashmiri Pandit is desirous of getting his vote enrolled in his particular constituency in Kashmir, do you think the law permits it? Because the very Kashmiri Pandit family or the individual is not living at that place currently.
See, all other parameters, legal aspects are to be seen, but the first thing is first. That if I am here, if I am in Chandigarh, if I am in Delhi, and I am a voter, and my vote is shifted without my consent to Delhi, then it is a gross unconstitutional act. And there is another reality to it, which has to be seen. People voting in exile makes a mockery of democracy. It is the biggest indictment of the democratic setup. Why are you doing it? Because you want to pretend that the people are still there. You want to pretend that there is a democratic system still there. You want to pretend that secularism still exists. You want to say that even your position in exile should be used to legitimize a communal, exclusivist system as an inclusivist secular system. There's a bigger fraud being perpetrated. There's a bigger, what you call as ostrich game. You want to close the eyes to the reality. It's not happening, it's not helping anybody. But more duplicitous and more dangerous in this whole thinking is that on one side, the political class they were telling Kashmiri Hindus that please don't contest, don't say that you were being pushed out by the people, by a movement which has roots in the Kashmir Valley. And you should not say it because it alienates the people, it pushes them back, it pushed them away from India. You should keep silent. And in fact, the subversive establishment played the same card. They told Government of India and the political class that if you talk about religious cleansing, if you talk about internal displacement, if you talk about genocide, then the Muslims of Kashmir will be alienated further. So you don't say it, you hide it. Now 30 years they have been hiding it. And you are seeing the progression of a movement from an autonomy movement to a caliphate movement. Now why has it happened? Because Government of India thought contesting separatism is not a better choice. Telling people that you are wrong, intellectually standing up to it, and then defeating the indoctrination campaigns. They thought it is an anti-national interest if we do it, while it was the foremost national interest. Because globally, fundamentalism or the fundamentalist terrorism, Islamic fundamentalist terrorism, it has two major arms. But the bigger arm is the propaganda and indoctrination arm. Terrorism is a smaller arm. So we have been trying to fight the day-to-day terrorism. We have not been trying to fight the terrorist establishment. That's why Panun Kashmir has been saying that the jihadi war form has to be recognized. It's the war form, it's not mere terrorism. And in this war form, the entire society is turned into a paramilitary society. So there is a military arm which the terrorists represent, and then there is a paramilitary arm which the stone pelters represent. So these two arms are there. Society is transformed into a machine of war, and from a child born to the person who is about to die, all are legitimate soldiers of this. And every resource of the society is at disposal. It is legitimately at the disposal of this war. And for winning this war, anything can be done. There are no war crimes. There is no international order. There is no international system which has to be followed. Everything has to be destroyed, including how you breathe, how you choose to breathe. So in this process, what I'm saying in Kashmir Valley, when this type of a battle is going on, Kashmiri Hindus were told that you have to play a role of becoming a bridge between a fundamentalized social milieu and the Indian milieu. And for that reason, even if you have to live under servitude of a Muslim order, that is a strategy, that's a tactics which has to be followed. And if you are contesting, then you are basically supporting, you are not helping the national cause. And while this thing was almost enforced upon us, this same logic that Kashmiri Hindus have to play this role is now a new angle is being given to this whole process by this voting, new thinking. See, on one side, we were asked to befriend Muslims for India. On the other side, the same political establishment thinks that if there is a low voting turnover, then Kashmiri Hindu vote will help them win. So in a way, we are being used as guinea pigs. We are being presented as a force which is fighting the mainstream Muslim politics. No, both the things cannot be done. You see, we were told at one stage that, in fact, the Muslims, Sheikh Abdullah himself said that we were a fifth column. So we were playing a role for unpaid soldiers for India. So there was a large segment of Indian intelligence who thought that since you played that role, a pro-India role, you alienated yourself. If you would not have played that role, perhaps you would have been living there. Now the same people wanted us to play another role, to befriend them, befriend the fundamentalist establishment. And while this process was going on, this process was a very ruthless, relentless process of denial of genocide. While it was going on, suddenly we were told that now we will contest elections. In case there are low voting elections in the Kashmir Valley, then Kashmiri Pandits can win. Now by this, we are being again pushed into the firing line. We are pushed again into a conflict, for which we don't think there is any meaning to come into this conflict unless the fundamentals are changed. We have played a nationalist role. We will continue to play a nationalist role. We know what is to be done. We know how the things can be reversed. But till now, the entire political structure, they thought that our wisdom and our voice is not required for them. They are still moving into a contradictory direction. And there's a danger in this election process which you highlighted of making Kashmiri Hindus guinea pigs and foot soldiers in a war which they cannot win through this method.
Very unlikely. The kind of insight Dr. Chrangoo has given in this interaction is not only enlightening for us, but for the masses and the viewers who would be viewing this video. Now, let's hope that whatever Dr. Ajay Chrangoo ji has said in this interview related to whatever the policy of Government of India has been vis-a-vis denial of genocide and atrocities that were perpetrated on Kashmiri Hindus, Kashmiri Pandits in Valley, and the hardships that they have faced in last 30 years, comes to some proper understanding, if not to end. So, with the hope that this whole the whole structure of understanding, the whole understanding of Government of India changes towards Kashmir and Kashmiri Pandits, we are closing this interview. Thanks for watching us. With me, Prabdeep Singh at camera, Ajay here. Thank you.